Welcome to Psychology 101. I'm your host, Amy, and today we'll be talking about states of consciousness. Consciousness is the quality or state of awareness or of being aware of an external object or something within oneself. It has been defined as awareness, subjectivity, and the ability to experience or to feel wakefulness, having a sense of selfhood and the executive control system of the mind. There's a quote in a book, The Blackwell Companion to Consciousness, and it states that anything that we are aware of at a given moment forms a part of our consciousness, making conscious experience at once the most familiar and most mysterious aspect of our lives. Specific examples of consciousness would be sleeping, dreaming, concentrating, and making decisions, typically used to describe being alert. Now we're going to touch on the topic of preconscious. The preconscious contains thoughts and feelings that a person is not currently aware of, but which can easily be brought to by the conscious. It exists just below the level of consciousness, before the unconscious mind. This is what we mean in our everyday usage of the word available memory. For example, you are presently not thinking about your mobile telephone number, but now it is mentioned to you, and you can recall it with ease. Mild emotion experiences may be in the subconscious, but sometimes traumatic and powerful negative emotions are repressed and hence not available in the subconscious. Our feelings, motives, and decisions are actually powerfully influenced by our past experiences, stored in the preconscious, and instincts from our unconscious. Freud applied these three systems to his structure of the personality: the id, the ego, and the superego. Here the id is regarded as entirely unconscious, with the ego and the superego having conscious and preconscious and unconscious aspects. Freud also regarded the mind to be like an iceberg, where the greatest part is hidden beneath the water or unconscious. Freud believed that the influences of the preconscious and unconscious reveal themselves in a variety of ways, including dreams and in slips of the tongue, now popularly known as the Freudian slips. Freud gave an example of such a slip when the British Member of Parliament referred to a colleague with whom he was irritated as an honourable member from hell instead of Hull. However, to other psychologists determined to be scientific in their approach, the concept of unconscious mind has proved a source of considerable frustration because it defines objective description in an extremely difficult objectivity test or measure. To sum up the consciousness, all in all, the consciousness can be defined as our awareness of ourselves and our environment. The subconscious includes everything we are unaware of, such as biting nails and shivering when it's cold. Then there's the preconscious, and that includes information that can be easily brought to our awareness. For example, like what you ate for dinner last night. And finally, we had the unconsciousness, and that is everything we are unaware of but motivates us. I have now invited an expert on altered states. Please welcome Liv.
Thank you for having me in your show, Amy. To add to what you were saying, consciousness comes to us in altered states, including daydreaming, sleeping, waking, meditating, and drug-induced hallucinating. Our bodies go through a 24-hour cycle of day and night through a biological clock known as the circadian rhythm. Body temperatures will rise as the morning approaches, then peak during the day, fall back down for a little time in the afternoon, usually the time where many people take siestas, and then drops again right before going to sleep.
So what can you tell us about our biological rhythm of our sleep?
Any biological process that displays an endogenous and trainable oscillation of about 24 hours. These 24-hour rhythms are driven by a circadian clock, as they have been widely observed in plants, animals, fungi, and cyanobacteria. The term circadian comes from the Latin circa, meaning around or approximately, and dies, meaning day. The formal study of biological temporal rhythms, such as daily, tidal, weekly, seasonal, annual rhythms, is called chronobiology. Although circadian rhythms are just indigenous, built-in, self-sustained, they are adjusted to the local environment by externals. We pass through a sleep cycle of 5 distinct stages of all we can test and see on an electroencephalograph, or an EEG. The first stage is the wide-awake but relaxed stage, which shows slow alpha waves on the EEG. Now we're going to talk about psychoactive drugs.
Psychoactive drugs are chemicals that change perceptions and moods through their actions at the neural synapses. Why might people who rarely drink alcohol get tipsy on one can of beer, but a heavy drinker show few effects until the second six-pack? Continued use of alcohol and other psychoactive drugs produce the user's brain adapts its chemistry to offset the drug effect. The user requires larger and larger doses to experience the same effect. Users who stop taking psychoactive drugs may experience the undesirable side effects of withdrawal. As the body responds to the drug's absence, the user may feel physical pain and intense cravings, indicating physical dependence. People can also develop psychological dependence, particularly for stress-relieving drugs. An addiction is a compulsive craving for a substance despite adverse consequences. The three major categories of psychoactive drugs is depressants, stimulants, and hallucinogens. All do their work at the brain synapses. Depressants are drugs such as alcohol, barbiturates, tranquilizers, and opiates, and calm neural activity and slow body functions. And large amounts of alcohol is a depressant, and small amounts is a stimulant. Barbiturates or tranquilizers mimic the effects of alcohol. They depress the nervous system's activity. Opiates also depress neural functioning. An example of an opiate is heroin. When repeatedly flooded with artificial opiate, the brain eventually stops producing its own opiates, the endorphins. Opiates include narcotics, such as the codeine and morphine. Stimulants such as caffeine and nicotine temporarily excite neural activity and arouse body function. This category of drugs also includes amphetamines, the even more powerful cocaine, ecstasy, and methamphetamine. Hallucinogens distort perceptions and evoke sensory images in the absence of sensory input. These drugs, also called psychedelics, meaning mind manifesting. Examples of hallucinogens are LSD, ecstasy, and marijuana. In our last and final topic, we'll be talking about hypnosis. Hypnosis is a social interaction in which one person, the hypnotist, suggests to another, the subject, that certain perceptions, feelings, thoughts, or behaviors will spontaneously occur. Those who study hypnosis have agreed that its power resides not in the hypnotist, but in the subject's openness to suggestion. Hypnotherapists try to help patients harness their own healing powers. Post-hypnotic suggestions have helped alleviate headaches, asthma, and stress-related skin disorders. This is done through suggestion made during a hypnosis session, to be carried out after the subject is no longer hypnotized.